To mark the 10th anniversary of Port Harcourt World Book Capital 2014, the Rainbow Book Club presents Talking Books Africa, a monthly virtual live conversation with authors. Connect with us on social media for interesting and enlightening interviews as we bring you Africa's stories. Rainbow Book Club, spreading the joy of reading since 2005.
All right, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you for joining us this evening on another edition of the Talking Books Africa. Thank you for joining us. Please let us know in the comments where you're joining us from today. It would be great to just have a sense of who we have on the call this afternoon or evening, depending on where you're joining from. Thank you for joining. It's the June edition of Talking Books Africa, and Talking Books Africa is brought to you by the Rainbow Book Club. And just a few things about the Rainbow Book Club that you should know. In almost 20 years of its existence, the Rainbow Book Club has set up 200 book clubs across Nigeria, here in West Africa. Yes, I said set up 200 book clubs across the Nigerian state. It also established 6 libraries across the country, published over 9 books, and it runs a vibrant festival and has done that for over 7 years now. And this year, 2024, actually marks the 10th year anniversary of the Port Harcourt World Book Capital. Yes, the Port Harcourt World Book Capital was a year-long celebration of books, of arts and culture, indigenous culture here in Nigeria in the year 2014. And it happened in the Rivers State capital, Port Harcourt, in collaboration with UNESCO. So once again, thank you for joining. That is the Rainbow Book Club that is bringing you Talking Books Africa today. And Talking Book Africa is actually a series. It's a monthly series that commemorates the 10th anniversary of the Port Harcourt World Book Capital. And we've been having exciting guest authors on this particular initiative since we kicked off the maiden edition in the month of May 2024. In May, we were able to speak to one of the prolific writers out of Nigeria, Chimbundu Onuzo. And then in April, I beg your pardon, we were able to speak with Chimbundu. And then in May, we had another interesting guest on this platform, and that was Jude Idada, the author of the book Boom Boom. Today, we have another equally exciting guest author who is going to be having conversations with us today about one of her books, and it's quite an interesting book. I'm going to be introducing our interviewer to you very shortly, but I will start with the book that we're going to be discussing today. It's called The Waterside Girl. That's the name of the book that we're going to be discussing today with our guest author. Some of you who are ardent readers might already have a clue as to who our guest author today is. Anyways, we'll go on to what The Waterside Girl is about. It's Hilda Dokubo's memoir that tells of her humble beginnings in the oil-rich Niger Delta to stardom in Nigeria's thriving film industry. In this book, Hilda is honest about her struggles, about her pain, her victories, as well as her failures, all of these expressed in her own authentic voice and handwriting. And then moving over to who our guest author today is, none other than Hilda Dokubo. A lot of you know this is a household name. She's been in the industry for quite a number of years. A lot of people refer to her as a veteran actor in the Nigerian film industry. She's a multiple award-winning actress, activist also, and politician. For those of you who may not know, these other sides to our guest today. She's the founder and executive director of Create, which is a one-stop support center that engages and empowers youth and women in the society. She also actively mentors youth across different parts of Nigeria. That is our guest author this evening, depending on where you're joining from. Remember, would like to just get to know you in the comments. So let us know where you're joining in from today as we prepare to welcome our guest in the next few minutes. Now on to our interviewer. Our interviewer today is Tarari Kalango, and she's an international development professional with a passion for Africa. When she's not improving access to loans for small, medium enterprises in Africa, you can find her with her nose buried in a novel by an African author. In her spare time, Tarari writes, and she is also based in Washington, D.C., the United States of America. Tarari, it's great to have you here today, and I know that you're definitely prepared to engage our guest author on this particular book, The Waterside Girl, a very interesting memoir of our guest today, who's a veteran Nollywood actress, or veteran actress, if you like, in the Nigerian film industry. A lot of us grew up watching her on screen, and we're looking forward to having that conversation with her. But before we have her join, I'm not sure if she's on the call just yet. I will ask you to please, in the comments, just welcome our interviewer today, Tarari Kalango. Tarari, you're welcome. How are you feeling today, and how are you anticipating the conversation with Hilda Dokubo?
Thanks, Osarume, as always, for the lovely introduction. I'm feeling good. I'm looking forward to it. I have my copy right here. If I flick through it, you'll see all of my comments and my notes and some of the parts I thought were very interesting or moving. And I think, it's exciting to have a guest who has so many facets to her life and has been involved in so many things. So I think the audience is in for a very rich and a very diverse conversation. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, and we are eagerly awaiting the conversation. But I have to remind everyone who's joining us to please also share the link with their friends, and please just let everyone know. Tell someone to tell another that we're live streaming on Talking Books Africa today, the 29th of June, 2024, and we're going to be having an interesting conversation with one of the finest, actually, actresses that we've had out of Nigeria, I must say, out of Africa. But Tarari, while we await our guest author, you have driven the conversations over the last 2 months. We have the maiden edition, or we premiered Talking Books Africa in the month of April as part of the celebration of the 10th anniversary of Port Harcourt World Book Capital. What are your reflections on some of the conversations you've had with the likes of Chibundu as well as Judy Dada, which was the most recent?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think that they were good conversations. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that myself, as being one of the participants in them. But, I think it's always lovely to sit down with the brain behind a book, because, there are always questions that arise from reading, especially as in the first case when it was a novel. You sort of want to know what the author was thinking, what their motivations were. And I think we also like to identify with people and identify people in their work. So it's always nice to sort of see behind the screen, see behind the curtains at what was going on in their mind, which is something that I'm hoping to continue in today's conversation. I can see that we now have our guest on the call with us. So Osarume, I'll hand back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Tarari. I would ask the audience to join me in welcoming our guest, Hilda Dokubo. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we are looking forward to this with so much excitement. I have to reintroduce you now that we have you on the call. Hilda Dokubo is an international multi-award winning actress, activist, and politician. She is the founder and executive director of Create, which is a one-stop, I beg your pardon, it's a one-stop support center that engages and empowers women and youth across the country. She's also actively mentoring a lot of youth in Nigeria, and she's done this for many, many years. Very interesting book here that we're going to be discussing today. I will be handing over. Very welcome to you, Hilda Dokubo. Thank you very much for joining us today. I will be handing over to Tarari, who will be interviewing you and asking you quite some interesting questions today as we get to learn about your experiences and how you were inspired to write the book, The Waterside Girl. So thank you very much for joining us. Over to you, Tarari.
Thank you, Osarume, and thank you, Mr. Kubo, for joining us. Good evening. Are you able to unmute so that we can hear your lovely, world-famous voice?
Yes, I'm able to unmute. And good evening, everyone. I think I lost track of the timing, but it's okay. I'm here now. It's a pleasure being with you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you, and I'm so excited. You were not here when I was showing off my copy of your book, but I'm going to just dive right into it because I have so many questions, and we have limited time. So, Mr. Kuwa, over decades, really, you have been invited to speak on so many different platforms, about the various avenues through which you express yourself in your life, whether it's through your acting, your advocacy, in more recent years about politics. And now I think you've entered a sort of a new phase where you're now being, asked to speak as an author and speaking about the memoir that you've written. So just to start us off, I would really like to hear from your perspective how it feels to have sort of transitioned through all these different phases of yourself to now being a writer.
Well, I take one step at a time. I felt the need to put some of these accounts down after I had listened to several other people speak to issues, and then sometimes wipe their feet on the truth, and then everyone, from especially the younger ones, just think that you wake up one morning and success lands on your lap without you working towards it. And I thought, it's time to let people in on the real truth, on what exactly it means to be successful and how you can, for yourself, measure those indices and tell yourself when you're doing well or not doing well. Now, being on those platforms provides me that opportunity to speak also to myself, because I learn from other people every time I get to talk to them about something, because there will always be a Q&A at the end of every conversation. So for me, being on those platforms at very different times provides me the opportunity to meet very different people, diverse opinions, and to also help in remolding and molding myself over and over. I'm a work in process. So yes, that's how it feels.
Oh, thank you, for sharing that with us. Just something that you said about, hearing what young people, the expectations that young people have these days and sort of wanting to speak to that. I think that as I read the book, that was something that definitely, jumped out at me. You didn't mince your words at all. You were sort of very honest, very frank, telling the truth, as it is from what you've experienced in your life. And, I know that you've also sort of started going on these tours in schools, primary schools and secondary schools, speaking about your book to the young people. I'm curious to know what impact you have seen it having on them, or what impact you desire to see it having on, the next generation.
I'll tell you one thing that has happened in every school that we have had to read this book. You find young people having the audacity to open up things that they have never told anybody. They open up and they share. They share sincerely things that they're afraid of. As much as to us, she's now 13. Now she's so afraid of going home during midterm break or anything. So she tells her mother that, oh, she has this schoolwork or that schoolwork. So she's also introduced herself to telling lies just to save herself from being raped. And when I wanted to find out why she has not told her mother, she said to me the only time she told her mother, she ended up in more trouble. This little girl is not alone in this story. I have listened to all kinds of things. I've had to invite mothers over. As a matter of fact, right now, I'm thinking of having a parent session with the adults to let them know that some of the things they're doing are responsible for all the dangers that their young ones are going through. I've had situations where some teachers sitting through, because I said to them, in this room, whenever I have this conversation, no one is allowed to lie and no one is allowed to condemn anybody. These are lessons that young people are learning on their own, very tough lessons. And this is the first time somebody is saying to them, it's okay to tell yourself the truth. It's okay to listen to another adult and believe her. It's okay to forgive your parents for all the times that you thought that the reasons they did the things they did to you was because they didn't love you. So you have to understand that they love you. Sometimes they do these things to protect you. However, they're the ones who do this out of selfishness and ignorance. So I've had different kinds of feelings, but most importantly is that gratefulness that a lot of young people trust me enough now to say, Auntie Hilda, we need to talk to you. And it's also encouraging for me now to set up what I call the Alphas Club, because I have also realized that there are a lot of girls who are alpha ladies. They're girls now, they're teenagers now. And if we don't help them, they're going to lose the alpha quality. Same way, if we don't work with the boys, they're also going to lose the alpha quality in them. But we need to guide those qualities because that's what will make them gentlemen and ladies when they become adults.
Wow. I mean, we lost you for a bit when you started speaking, but I think it cut in just as you were talking about how one of the students you interacted with was able to share what was happening at home, and you were sort of able to provide support in that. And it just, I guess, drew my mind to, of course, your background, which you've spoken about and you do speak about in your book, and sort of enduring abuse from people who you were meant to be able to trust, right, in your youth. And given that you've worked so much with young women or even young boys who have gone through similar situations, and from your own personal experience, what can, I guess, we do, right? Everybody in their own everyday lives who interacts with young people or parents who have children, what are some of the steps that people should be taking either to safeguard these children or, God forbid, if instances where this has already happened, to support and to help those children heal afterwards?
The first thing every adult around a young person should do is listen to the unspoken words, the things that these kids are not saying, but they are reacting to. Every time you say to a young person, you have to go to Auntie this or Uncle that, and they start putting up fights for nothing, for no reason. Please try and find out why. Usually young people like to go to homes where they experience love. Even when the person, sometimes would flog and all of that, they still can attest to being loved. So watch out for those things. Watch out for when your kids run away for no reason. You just wake up and then you realize that this child just disappeared from the house. Don't just say, I did not send the child away. Please go looking for that child, because the child may just end up in the wrong hands. Please go looking for the child. And if you notice that a young child is always called up on her own or scattered, she's here, she's there, she's jumpy, there's a lot going on in that child's mind. Please help the child. Talk to the child. Show love. Don't condemn. I'm not saying over reward or over pamper. I'm saying nicely. Hold that child and interact. Walk with the child. Walk through. Sometimes the pain is so deep, they don't want to talk. But help them talk. Get them to talk. It helps in healing. Help them. Show them love. Because the more you antagonize them, the more you judge them, the more you condemn them, the more you scare them, the more they don't want to talk to you, the more they want to depend on their peers, the more they want to run very far. As a young girl, I wanted to run very far because I thought my mom didn't love me. It was until I had become a grown-up that I realized that. And, that realization came as a result of other things that I had experienced. So we need to help. And then please, just in case the girl, the boy has already been, been through abuse and is living with it, the best thing to do with that person is to help the person in getting back their self-worth. I'll tell you what I started doing right now. I started doing a special class for alpha kids, and the decision maker should be your friend. How do you decide what time to study? How do you decide what to wear? So our lives are outcomes of our decisions. So decision making is the key for me now that I want to help young people arrive at. Make all the right decisions. In love, correct them, and in love, help them overcome their fears.
Thank you. So, I think there are just so many nuggets from what you said, but I would say, what I've heard, right, is when it comes to young people around us, to listen to them, to listen to the verbal and the non-verbal things that they're saying, and, just to surround them with love, with support, and with a safe space where, if and when they speak the truth, they're not condemned, they're not accused of lying or playing games, and, they're sort of taken seriously. And, you just mentioned as well, sort of how you're helping those young people build their self-esteem back up. And it reminded me of a quote actually from your book, which I'm going to read out and then ask a question about. I think you had just described, the initial breakdown of your marriage, which is something that was very vulnerable to share, especially for someone like yourself, who I know, believes that family should be private and, in not airing things. And you said that this is me reading. My initial fallback position was to begin asking God why it was so difficult for him to let me enjoy being loved. And, when I read that sentence, I just thought, wow, that is really deep. And it's probably a question that a lot of people have thought to themselves, or, they've asked in their mind, but don't want to articulate or don't even want to address and acknowledge that it exists. And so I would like to ask you, how you were able to leave that and come to a place where you can enjoy being loved, and also how do you stop yourself, from going back to that mindset when things happen that evoke old emotions, old fears? How do you keep yourself in a renewed mindset?
Okay, so I'd been through a lot. Like I always say, everybody in Nigeria is going through something or coming back from something, or in
Or headed
or
to
in some.
something.
So I had lost love too many times. That all I also knew of love is God. God is my sample of love. Forgiveness is my understanding of love, being there, companionship, correction. My idea of love is so simple and decent, and so I can't understand why it's tough for me to enjoy it from someone else if I'm giving all of it. How can they not see that I'm giving all of me? How can you not give all of you if I'm giving all of me? How can you not understand that I'm a human being and that I'm likely to make mistakes? How can you not see that when I make mistakes, you can help me correct them, that I don't need to fight because I want to correct a mistake, and I don't need to lose you because I have made a mistake. But I tell you what has happened. Over time, I have learned first that it's very important for you not to beat up yourself when you make mistakes. Don't beat up yourself. It's part of what I teach as lessons on decision making. Learn to admit that you are a human being and that you are likely to make mistakes. Learn to own your mistakes. Own them, correct them, and move on. Don't brood over it, and don't let anybody make you feel smaller than who you are just because you have made a mistake. It is a mistake. And if people were not going to err, God was not going to have need for forgiveness. And it's the same thing for human beings. You know the prayer. The prayer says, "Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us." Meaning that you are not the only trespasser. You and somebody else, take two of you to make an error. Two, not you alone. So don't let anybody make it look like everything that went wrong was you or is you. So when all of this happened, and I kept asking God, why am I so unlovable? What is the problem with me? I realized that the problem was not me. It was people understanding that love is simple and easy. It was people not understanding that, like my dad would say when he was alive, he would say, loving me is having never to say you are sorry. What does that mean? It does not mean that you don't apologize. It means that from the very beginning, you don't do anything for which you will be sorry. You do things that you should be proud of. So if I've done something that I'm not proud of, that already is enough punishment for that offense. The fact that I'm not proud of myself, I can't own up to it, I'm embarrassed by it, that is enough punishment. That is enough for you to help me win me for me. So when you start at that point to hit at the person, what you're actually doing is you're deepening the pain. So please, let's try not to deepen pain. When young people make mistakes, don't deepen the mistake by talking down, hating, calling names. No, don't do that. The person is already going through a lot. So what you need to do is point out what is wrong with the loss. Point it out. So I began to do self-evaluation of me, of my activities, of my actions, of the words that I say or didn't say. I began to do self-evaluation. And every time I evaluated and realized that I haven't done anything wrong, I move on. I just leave it there, and I pray that someday you get to see that you overreacted. If I realize that, yeah, I did actually step off the borders, I will come back to you and I will apologize. So readily, I'm the first to apologize to everybody. When I'm wrong, when you're wrong, I'm first to say, I'm sorry, can we just let it go? Can we just continue? Can we talk about it? Can we make amends? Is there anything I can do to correct how you feel right now? I'm first to do it. As a younger person, I used to be called very weak. My friends will say, don't worry, Nana, she will cry, come, she will talk sorry. As an adult, people began to say, oh, don't worry about it, it will talk sorry. So it was counted for me as weakness. But as a more matured woman right now, it's counted for me as strength and courage. When I say to people, let's talk about this, let's review it, and I'm sorry that you feel bad and all of that. They always ask, where do you get the strength from? Where? It's from inside of me, because I have assessed myself severally, assessed and assessed. And I always do. And even as we're speaking now, I still am assessing myself to ask myself over and over, what exactly went wrong?
Yeah.
And what can we do to get it right? Those are the things that I do all the time. That's how I get over any kind of anger, rejection, pain. That's how I get over it. And importantly is, I have enough built up strength and love inside that if I had to share it, I would share, and it will go around all of us, and I will still have surplus left for me.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful takeaway, for all of us on this call to gather up love within us. So regardless of, how people are treating us or mistreating us, that, we're still able to pour and act from a place of love. I'd also just want to take this moment to remind everyone, because I have all my questions, but I'm not the only one here. That if you have any questions you would like to ask the one and only Hilda Dokubo, to please put them in the chat. We'll get to them shortly. So as we're speaking, if anything comes up, because I know so many things pop up for me, when she's dropping these gems, so put them in the chat. We'll get to them later. Shortly, I'm going to sort of pivot the conversation and get into the other very interesting parts of your life. But before we do, there's something that I sort of came in here really wanting to ask you, which is this topic of forgiveness, right? Which is something that was sort of really big in your book, is that you've adopted this mindset of, not holding things against the people who hurt you in your life. And you've actually sort of changed your perspective on the things that you've gone through. And I guess you sort of position them as things that have contributed to making you the successful woman that you are today. But that can be easier said than done, letting go, especially if somebody is still living in that situation, right? Like if they're still, with, I don't know, an abusive partner or abusive parent, or just going through some kind of trial, and they're like, how can you tell me to, accept that this is building me up or anything like that? How does someone actually get out of, or rather, how does someone take on that approach whilst they are still in that situation? Is it even possible? I mean, would you encourage them to do that?
I'll tell you the first thing. Don't jump into doing that. You're in a relationship. The relationship has to stop briefly, and I'll be talking to you because I just arrived home. I've been driving all this time. Good thing I have a stand in my car where I can put the phone whilst I talk. So I'm going to still keep talking, but I'm also going to be walking along. So, okay.
Oh no, I think we might have lost volume. Miss Dokubo, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Oh no, let me see if I can get her
It might,
attention.
yeah, it might be her network.
Yeah.
Okay. Is my network okay?
It is
Can
now,
you hear
but
me?
we lost you once you stepped out of the car. So if
Okay.
you wouldn't mind
Okay.
repeating.
So, all right, I will. Don't go into Act 2 if you are not done with Act 1. What does that mean? If you lose one relationship, don't jump into a second relationship. A lot of people, if you start a new relationship, you will just forget the first one. No, 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 don't make that mistake. Don't you ever make that mistake. Heal. Take the time to heal. Heal yourself of the pain of anger. Heal yourself of the jealousy that you would feel, inside of you, of the rejection and abandonment. Go through it. Go through it. Don't shortchange yourself and don't shortcut it, because there is no shortcut to healing. So you heal. Now, if you are the person who is living with an abusive partner, I beg you, if the abusiveness includes battery or any of those kind of funny things where a man or a woman lays hands on you, please, I'm begging you in the name of everything. I'm not an advocate for divorce or separation, but please, for your life's sake, leave that relationship. Except you're going to help the person get help. Except you're going to help the person see a doctor or just get help and heal. Don't stay there, because you might die. You might get disfigured. And all of it will end up at, we don't know what happened. So please, once it is that violent, don't. But if it's just abuse of somebody verbally abusing or psychologically abusing you, leave the space, heal yourself, get out of that environment, and give yourself time to reevaluate you. Forgiveness is a gift. I keep saying it, and I don't know how best to say it other than the way I'm saying it right now. Forgiveness is a gift. We all did not receive that gift from God or from people. Some of us have learned to build it for ourselves. Some of us had excess of it being given to us. But it's a special gift that you must learn to give to yourself and give to other people.
Yeah.
I can't tell you for sure that I know every strategy that you use in achieving this, but I can share the ones that I have used for myself, and it has worked for me. And that is telling me the truth. I tell myself the truth all the time about what I did right or wrong. I always tell myself that truth. And the minute my God conscience, the one my son likes to describe as the Holy Spirit of mommy, once my conscience says to me, Hilda, you are right. I don't care if I'm the only one right. I stick to it. And if that same conscience says to me, no, this is not right, again, I stick to it and I use it. But whether I am right or wrong, I forgive you for not understanding me, and I move on. I don't try anymore to try to get everyone to see my point. I just make my point and I give you time to assess it, see it or not see it. But I'm not going to beat up myself that you couldn't see it. Neither am I going to beat you up for being slow at seeing it, because I know that eventually you will see it.
Yeah, and
So I'm
it's
going to
like
give all of us time. Give you.
I was just saying it's like the saying that unforgiveness is like drinking poison and hoping that the other person dies or hoping that the other person is injured. It's really not about the other person at the end of the day, right? It's about yourself. So thank you for sharing your tips on how you deal with that. I am now going to pivot the conversation to, some of the more recent happenings in your life. So within the past, I don't know how many years, you've been, very vocal about the politics in your state, in Rivers State. Am I right in thinking that's where you're joining us from right now? Okay, so where you're based and you're now an active, politician. So I'm curious to hear why you chose to join the political party that you did, um, which is the Labour Party for those in our audience who may not be aware, and why you decided to choose them over, the other parties that are dominant across Nigeria. I think you're muted. We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I tell you what, I'm not the conventional politician. I came into politics through advocacy,
Mm,
through yes, through trying to reach out to other people and discussing the rights of everyone, rights of women, rights of young people, and all of that. I'm running up again because my battery is warning, so I can just plug it on very quickly. Okay, so that's how I got there, and because I had to read the documents of the Labour Party, and yes, it did meet my needs. It spoke to who I was and who I still am. There was a party like that I could depend. It looks like. I hope. All right. So that's how I got to Labour Party. And that's why I am still in Labour Party and I'm Labour Party chairman today. Can you hear me? Or have I
yes, we
lost
can.
everyone? Okay.
We're still here. You've been able to reach your charger?
I'm going there straight away. Yes, I have.
Okay,
This is
well,
so good.
I'll just remind everyone, to put your questions in the chat as we'll be turning over to them shortly. So anything from any facets of Ms. Dokubo's life that you would like to know about, please put in the chat. And I guess one of my final questions as I wrap up my end of it is a question that I'm sure you get asked all the time, which is what is coming next? What should we expect from you? What is going to be the next big thing, to have your name on it?
I'm trying to, like I said to you, I'm working seriously on setting up the Alphas Club. Hopefully, that comes on very quickly. And then we put it, so that's for me right now, because I want to make it look like an institution where parents will bring in their children, sign them on, and whilst we're doing creative education for them, we're also doing their training as leaders, as alpha human beings. So that's probably the biggest thing my brain can think of right now. I'm running that training school. Because, for me, I decided on a training school. I didn't want to call it leadership school because
Okay.
it's much more than just leadership.
I also didn't want to call it political school or advocacy school. I wanted something that would help us, all of us, achieve well-rounded human beings. Well-rounded people who know that they're human beings and that they can achieve as much as they can imagine. You know, so yes, so
Well,
I
we look
guess.
forward to seeing, your dreams and your vision come to fruition and hearing more about what is going to happen there. My final question, I'm going to force myself to stop here, is about the title of your book. Just for those who are on the call who, may not yet have opened their copies and may not be aware, can you share with us the meaning behind the title of your book, The Waterside Girl?
Okay, so this is what originally I had, okay, so I'm that person who likes to give positive meanings to things that people use derogatorily at people. When I did my movie, I called it Asawana, whereas people thought that Asawana meant destroy and violence and all of that. I gave it the meaning of beauty restored, the beauty of Niger Delta people restored. That's the meaning of Asawana. The meaning for me of Waterside is this is one girl who was born in town, Port Harcourt, grew up in town, early life in town. And the thing about town is you have town, then you have Abuja, then you have Bundu. And all of this is just around the waterside. So for them, waterside children are useless children, children from very poor background. Oh, I wasn't born poor. I was born comfortable, very comfortable. My dad did well for himself. And I wanted for people to know that you being a waterside girl meant that you can stand all odds and stand tall. You will let that water, you will allow the quality of water cleanse you, and you will come out clean and proper. You cannot be abused. You don't have enemies. Water has no enemy. People will use you. And even when they think that this water is dirty, you will become like manure to the plants. So you can never, ever be useless as a waterside child, because your life is so productive that everyone else would need it. And that's how that title, The Waterside Girl, came. It was originally recreating me, the Waterside Girl. And when it went for evaluation and everything, it came back. The recommendation was to have 2 books out of the book you have in your hands.
Okay.
The part that I wrote, Don't Touch, the Nuggets, the Hilda's Nuggets, was supposed to be a smaller book of Hilda's quotes. But I thought, no, put this together.
Put it all
So you
in
have
one.
1 book. Yes, you have this Waterside, and then you can write several other books. And that's how
Wow.
we're here.
Well, Ms. Dokubo, thank you so much. And, to our audience, we've come to at least the end of my my part with the famous Waterside Girl, who's taken us through her story, through this book and through this conversation of all the lessons learned, and all the nuggets that she has to share with us. Thank you so much, Ms. Dokubo. I very much appreciate your time and the conversation we've had. And I will just hand over to, I believe I'm handing over to the moderator, Osarume, as he rounds out this segment for us.
Thank you so much, Tarari, and thank you, Madam Hilda. It's been such a pleasure having you here with us. Very interesting conversation right there as you pivoted from the rationale behind the story and the Waterside Girl to politics, and then to inspiration behind. And there was so much about young people Madam Hilda talked about today, and I find them very, very insightful and instructive. I hope a lot of our audience did find it equally interesting and insightful as well. I'm trying to look out for questions, but I see that we don't have any questions. And I guess that you were able to touch all the different areas responding to Tarari's questions, Madam Hilda. Then I also see Mrs. Kalango's hand going up. She's the founder of Rainbow Book Club and someone who I'm sure is also very familiar with Madam Hilda. So I will yield the mic to Mrs. Kalango to ask her question. Over to you, Mrs. Kalango.
Thanks, Osarume. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Auntie Coco.
Hello, Hilda. What do I say? Proudly, I have my copy, and thank you for taking the time to write. You know, you've been on the screen, you've been very successful, won several awards. I've seen your advocacy, you know, and I'm one of those who's always waiting for a book. So once the book came out, you know, I reached you. And being a Port Harcourt girl myself and understanding the Waterside Girl, I'm so excited that you have written something that our children in Port Harcourt can identify with. So very well done. And just speaking to you, listening to you, we had a long chat the other day. And when you told me of some of your stories interacting with the children and the results we are seeing, I just commend you, you know, and I know I said to you, I'll find time to accompany you to, even if it is one school, you know, to have firsthand experience of what you're doing. Well done. In your book, we see that you did have a stormy relationship with your mom growing up. So here you were your father's little princess. I think you called yourself that. You know, you were everything to your father, the first of 6 children. He loved you, but you lost him at such a young age. And then came this difficult relationship between yourself and your mom. I know it has changed over time. Recently, was it on Mother's Day on your Instagram? I saw you introducing her. That was so lovely. But I'd like to ask how you were able to come through that difficult patch with your mom and you as a parent. I know also one of your sons, I believe, was going through a really tough time and on the verge of depression, I believe. And you found out also that there was a bit of a gap between you. And when you found that out, you took steps to bridge that gap. So can you talk to us about how we as parents can connect with our children and help them through difficult periods, just from your experience?
Okay, so Auntie Coco, thank you so much. You see, the relationship with my mom, I think you can liken it to children and their love for people who don't bully them. My dad will walk you through your offense. My mom will beat you through your offense. And as a young girl, I just didn't understand why I had to be beaten too many times. Now, growing up and after Dad died and we got, you know, closer, and she was battling with how to, you know, connect with me. One day I just asked her, I said, but why do you take everything out on me? And my mom told me, she said to me, if I get you right, the rest of you will be correct. If I lose you, the rest of you, I will lose. And I'm not prepared to lose my children. I didn't know what that meant at the time she said it. But by the time I got to the university and I began to read more, like you, Auntie Coco, I love books. The more I read, the more I understood how people reacted to fear, deep fears. They react differently. And my mom's biggest fear was losing us. And her way of showing that was in beating you, in dragging you, and, you know, in literally trying to force what she wanted on you. You can't do that with everybody. God has blessed children differently. You can't do that. I was not created to just take you breathing down on me, which was why we didn't have a connect. Now we have so much, you know. My mom still thinks that my biggest bribe is being called daddy's girl, and she's very correct. So even now, when she wants to try some of those her miracles, she will just go, Dokubo Pikin, Benifer's daughter. Then she will say what she wants to say. Now, for me and my son, I'll tell you what I did. Like I always say, if it works for me, try it. It might work for you. It may not be the answer to everyone's question, but it would work somehow. When I realized that he was depressed, this young couldn't sleep. He had insomnia. He was battling with everything. In fact, I don't know, but I'll tell you what I did. What I did first was to let him know that whatever it was he was going through, we can go through it together if he shared it with me. And I let him know that the things he thought he was hiding from me, I knew them already. So there's no point hiding anything. Let's share. Tell me the most difficult part of all of the things that you are doing. Let's try. And you see, what everyone hates is for you to say, I told you. People don't like that. Human beings are created to hate it. And that's a mistake a lot of us as parents do. I warned you. I told you. When you do that, you make the person who is living with this trauma shrink in and dig deeper. So rather than offload the burden, they swallow it up more. And the more they swallow the burden, the deeper into depression they go, because at this point, they don't know anybody they can trust. If they can't trust you, their parents, their mom with these fears, if they can't trust you enough to tell you what they're battling with, then of course they can't anyone else. So they're going to look for friends who they think like them. I went looking for Auntie Amma because I felt like, Auntie Amma was a mother at 13, so she might know, how to deal with me. I couldn't tell my mom, but I could tell Auntie Amma. So make yourself, as a parent, the go-to place for your child. Let your child feel safer telling you everything than telling anyone else. Don't let anybody take your place. You take your place. See, my sons can't share anything with anybody until they share it with me. They can't.
I love that.
First day, yes, no, I am the go-to place. Even when they go to parties and they misbehave, as they are entering the house, you hear them say, Mommy Lustus, we messed you up today. We drank. We messed you. In fact, somebody's going to call you and tell you your son had brandy. I say, okay, we'll go and eat Gary first. They'll talk about the brandy. So they come back. So they come back and they feel safe. So when I begin to talk to them about that brandy, is now in saying, please, next time, even if you must drink the brandy, don't drink it to the point where even you can't find your way home. You have to come home safely to me. I'll be waiting here. So if the brandy is so sweet, put it in the car. Drive to the house. When you're on top of your bed, drink and sleep. Then they will laugh. Oh, Mommy, what will then there's no fun. This, that. Mommy, I saw one girl. I chased her. I said, don't go and chase another person's child. Or if she gets pregnant, we marry her. They will laugh. Mommy, in that case, we'll marry 20 wives. Yes. So their go-to place. Yes.
Yeah.
And their go-to place for every gossip, for every pain, so as a parent, make yourself the go-to place. You are not their friend, but make them your friends. You are their parents. Let them know you are parents, but build the environment of friendship so that they can trust you like their friend and share with you. But also make it clear that you are parents and not friend.
Excellent. Thank you so, so much. When you begin to speak, you're oozing with passion. And I know that we can go on and on. We've learned so much. We've learned so much about parenting. We've learned even about depression and how to handle, and the relationship between young people and us, another generation. So we are so grateful. We have come to the end of our program this evening. So I'll just have to thank you for making time out. We can see how busy you are. And I had wanted to ask you about the power of mentorship, your relationship with Amatu Braid, but I'll leave that and ask people to read the book and just see how that great woman influenced you so much. Thank you so much, the great Hilda Dokubo. Over to you to round off for Sarume.
Thank you so much
for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kalango, founder of the Rainbow Book Club that has made this possible, Talking Books Africa. And special thanks to our guest author today, Madam Hilda Dokubo, for joining. And love your head tie, very, very resplendent color. Thank you so much for sharing some very, very interesting thoughts with us today. And special thanks to Tarari, who was our anchor during that interview. And we want to thank our audience, all of you who joined and who are watching across our streaming platforms. We want to say thank you. And we ask you to make it a date with us again next month. We will be communicating the dates and another equally interesting and exciting guest who will be engaging on their book. Talking Book Africa is about African authors telling African stories. We want to tell our own stories to the rest of the world through our lenses. So it's going to be an incredible session next month. Please look out on our social media handles. Follow us. Let's know the comments. Let's know your thoughts. Let's know your big takeaways from the conversations that we've been having. We would look forward to engaging with you on social media as well. And keep an eye on our platforms. We would also be sharing more information about our next guest for the month of July. So till we see you then, we will be showing you on screen now, social media platforms. You can follow us on YouTube. This video is actually going to be available on YouTube. And if you're watching on Facebook, it's also available on our Facebook page as well. And then we will have some clips on Instagram. Instagram, it's Rainbow Book Club Official. And then we also have the Port Harcourt World Book Capital on Instagram as well, at Port Harcourt World Book Capital on Instagram and at Rainbow Book Club Official. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you to our guest author. Thank you to our anchor this evening or afternoon, depending where you're joining from. And many thanks to our founder, Mrs. Kalango. Thank you. Until we see you next time, stay well. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.